All right, then, we're at 5:30. You guys okay if we start? Okay, then I guess I go first. First, that's what you said, right?
You're going first.
All right. First, welcome. You guys are about to embark on something that's pretty interesting for us, and it's the first time for us. One, I'm going to be giving you my opinions on some of this, and they may not always be the same with everybody. But for me, I see this as an opportunity for the citizens to actually have a say on what we do next with the wages. It's been a political process, that's how it works for years. But this is the opportunity for you guys to actually have a say, and I want to make this clear. This is your meeting. It's not mine, it's not our HR, it's not our auditor. This is your meeting. And as a commission, we actually took steps to make this more impactful. Whatever you decide, good, bad, or indifferent, that's the decision. It's already passed by the commission that your actions are not a recommendation. You are going to be the ones that are having the impact on the salaries for the elected officials. A little different, but again, I believe it's necessary. I want to make real clear to you again, this is yours, not ours, not how we want it. So if you have questions, it's going to be up to you to ask them. If you want to see information, it's going to be up to you to ask for it and to request it. You can ask for what it's like for the counties that we work with. You can ask what it's like for the counties that are next to it. You can ask what it's like for the county that is the smallest county in the state with the smallest budget. That's up to you. However you decide to do it. There is no right answer and there is no wrong answer. It's just whatever answer you guys come up with. So first, thank you for stepping up to do this. It's not like you're going to make a fortune here doing it, that's for sure. And you're probably going to catch grief from a few people. But at the same time, we're hoping and counting on it that you will do the best you can for the county, what you think is best. Because literally, that is now your responsibility, it's not mine. So I appreciate you taking the time, and I hope to remind you one more time, this is yours. You're gonna set up your own structure, your own chair, your own everything. But whatever questions you have, or whatever information you want, you're entitled to it, because we don't have a structure for this. You are the structure. You'll decide what we do, even if we get paid $1, that's your decision. So with that, I'd like to introduce to you your auditor for the county. He also is one who, this has all been set up to work underneath him, but I want to remind you again, he's a visitor in this room, just like I am, just like all of them. This is your barbecue.
Your barbecue. I like that.
Maybe lobster
You're making me
rolls?
hungry.
Lobster
Dinner
rolls.
time. So hey, once again, I'm Steve Dunkel, your auditor, and I want to also thank you guys for being willing to serve on this commission. And just as kind of an overview refresher, 4 of you were selected by the Board of County Commissioners to be appointed to the Salary Commission. 6 of you were picked by me through a random draw process from the voter registration database, 2 from each commissioner's district. So we figured with that compilation, we'll get a good representation not only of expertise, but also representation of the people in the commissioners' districts that you represent. So like Commissioner Netherland said, you guys are independent, and you're going to have information presented to you that represent different schools of thought, comparable salaries from other counties, maybe other industries, comparable wages, how we go about how our HR department goes about setting or adjusting wages for county employees. Statement of work. I think that's the important one. You'll want to get a good feel for the statement of work for each elected official and come up with what you believe to be the commensurate value, right? And I think the only thing I would add to that is that so you have the comparable worth for statement of work issue, but you also have to, I think, recognize that elected officials are not the same as any other county employee, right? Elected officials run for office for a reason, and I like to believe that reason is to serve the people, not so much to be motivated by money or by financial gain. So with all of that, you guys are going to come up with your own frame of reference, your own metrics, your own decision-making process, and like Randy said, what you guys decide is what what gets implemented. So the only other recourse to that would be if the people of our county aren't happy with what you guys implement, there is a referendum process. So that's just all part of what the statute lays out. So it gets pretty wide visibility, a lot of scrutiny, and it should be a heck of a lot of fun. So hope you guys have a good time with it. We are here to help with whatever you need, whatever information. The county's here to help. And I just wish you good luck, Godspeed. Thank you very much. And we'll keep, I guess she'll keep us posted, right? So thank you.
And we'll try to be available for you if you need us. Staff will be available, but other than that, again, I'm gonna go ahead and leave because I don't wanna have any pressure. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Are there any other counties doing this process, or is this just?
There's a few counties that have done it, but they may not have done it in the same process you're going to do. And I know of one where, for sure, where it was put into place, but I know of others where it was used as a recommendation to the commission.
That's the beauty of our state, right? Each county has its own approach to how they handle salaries for elected officials. Some have commissions, some don't. And our Board of Commissioners, through the resolution, has opted to establish a salary commission. And I know Randy said it up front, but this is a really important way for us to return power to the people, putting the decision-making responsibility in your hands, right? And if you guys know me at all, I'm all about whatever we can do to return power to the people, so.
And you're gonna find we're not all the same.
We're not.
When you look at the counties, literally, there's commissions that have secretaries and all these other things, other commissions that are ceremonial, others that have nothing, that just, it's not gonna be easy. You're gonna find out how hard it is to be HR, because when they come to us, they've done so much work, so you're gonna be surprised, but we have a very knowledgeable HR. You're very lucky to come to us at this time, for this to come together at this time, because the stuff she'll be able to get for you and present for you. And again, I want to remind you, it's yours, so if you have other questions that may not be in the basic stuff that's given, ask it. The body decides they want to get the information, you're entitled to it. I'm gonna leave unless anybody has a question of me.
Any other questions before I head out as well? Because
I just have one other question.
Sure.
Yes, Mary Jo.
I'm sure that Diane is recording everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it says in the suggested bylaws that we need a secretary. Do we need another secretary besides what Diane's doing?
That's the plan, that you guys would appoint your own chair, vice chair, and secretary.
But is it redundant to have Diane and somebody else doing it?
Diane, how do you feel
This is
about
gonna
that?
be up to you guys, really.
I suggested to Mark that we provide staff support, because I know when you're participating in a group, it's really hard to be able to capture notes. And knowing that this is subject to the Open Public Meetings Act and the Public Records Act, which I would assume most of you are not very familiar with, that way we can make sure we have the proper record kept here. And the minutes are only summary minutes, and they're really, they're for action. So when you, a lot of, when you discuss stuff, it'll just be a brief discussion of, because we do have a recording. So if somebody wants to listen to the record, they could go back and do that.
So again, it's up to you. If you do choose you want to have one, you can. If you choose you don't, yes.
Is there a process for requesting the information?
There'll be people here for you to actually ask that of, and they'll try to get that for you.
Okay.
You may not be able to have it in the same meeting, of course, because they'll go out and they'll do the work. This is considered very important by the county. So if you have stuff you want, we want to make sure that you get it in a timely manner so that you don't have to spend your lives doing this. We appreciate that you're here now. It's hard to get people to step up, and you guys all did. So we want to make sure we take care of you. If you have any issues or anything come up, the gentleman in the far back corner is your administrator, who's also the head of HR. And right beside him is our HR manager. And believe me, you're going to be impressed. So just ask away. But if you ever want anything in this county that nobody else can get, you've ever heard the expression, "I got a guy"? That's Diane. Okay? Guaranteed. All right, anything else from us?
Hey, before you jet, Commissioner Netherland, I see that Braden Sisk is logged on to this Zoom call. I think it would be good if we just kind of all went through a quick round of introductions now that he's here, so at least you can quiz him at the end to see if he remembers your name.
Okay.
Okay, go.
Randy Netherland, Mason County Commission, District 1, current chair this year.
Hi, Mary Jo Katie. I'm one of the ones appointed by the commissioners.
Matt Mallory, same, one of the ones appointed by the commissioners.
Jim Morrell, also appointed by the commissioners. I don't know if you want what we do, or that might be helpful. My day job is at Peninsula Credit Union as CEO for that institution.
I know I knew you.
Actually, I think you should, past Mason County Commissioner, but she's done a lot of other things as well.
Superintendent, Merriam Night School District.
Roger Lewis, just one of the selected commissioners.
Lee Wells, I just work for Mason County Garbage.
I'm Richard Wilson, and I was one of the lotto winners, I guess.
I'm glad he sees it that way.
You guys all bought lottery tickets that day, right? Just-
No, I
I'm well on the way home today.
Right?
I'm Jan Goodpaster, and I am retired. Lived in Mason County most of my life.
I'm Devin Ferner. I'm one of the lottery winners. I'm a procurement and inventory analyst.
And my name's Brent Fromm, and I am a small business owner, and I do private consulting.
And hey, Braden, I'm Steve Dunkel, your auditor, and if you want to introduce yourself, then we'll catch the other people around the outside perimeter here of the room.
His audio isn't on.
Can't hear you, my man.
It may be ours.
Yeah, it might be it.
Maybe we have to unmute you.
No, I mean volume wise.
Yeah, he's unmuted.
No, Diane, you're not a.
Hang on, Braden.
Are you charged of the rest?
I can read your lips. We're gonna unmute you.
No, he's already unmuted.
He's
He's,
unmuted, I did that.
Yeah, we just
yeah,
have to make sure the
try the
volume.
volume on the.
Yeah, you got it on.
Braden, can you talk again, see if we can hear you?
You can't hear you.
I don't think he can
He's
hear
not
you.
here.
There you go.
There we
There we
go.
go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay. My name is Braden Sisk. I believe I was selected by lottery drawing for this. I apologize, I'm not there in person. My engine actually blew up last week, and so dealing with repairs. But I'm out in the Trails End district. I've knocked a lot of doors. I've gathered a lot of signatures for like the initiative process, and so I think I have a pretty good pulse on how the community is leaning with regard to public policy matters.
Okay, very good. And now let's pick up the corner here and work our way around.
I'm Mary Rancier, I'm the HR director.
My name's Mark Neary, I'm the county administrator.
Diane Zoring, Central Services Manager.
All right. I think that's it.
Okay. Again, no other, last questions before I go?
Our first deadline's the 1st of May, is that correct? We have to have it submitted by the 1st of May.
But again, I want to remind you, this is your barbecue. Okay, will you set it up, it'd be appreciated if it was, but this is your barbecue. At least, whatever that question comes up, that's gonna be my response each time. So,
You're making me hungry with all
yeah, I
that.
know.
My question, what's on the grill?
Yeah. You know, my son, I have a food
Lobster
trailer up north that my son does, it does Italian food, lobster roll stuff, so. All right, again, if you wanna call on us, you ever want us to come, and speak to you and tell us about our jobs, whatever you want, or you're welcome to just call me anytime anyway.
Are you guys pumped?
So excited.
I can feel the
Is that the Wise Guys trailer
Yes.
that advertises the
Yes.
lobster rolls?
Yes,
I've been
that's
looking
my
for
son,
that
yeah.
forever.
Yeah,
That's
I started that so he could, stay home while he went to
Nice to
college.
meet you in person.
So he does that 3 days a week, and as he gets me
Take
college
care.
credits, I give him percentage of the business. So,
Nice to meet you in person.
bye, everybody.
Lee,
Nice to meet you, it's an honor.
Good to meet you.
And good to see you again. Good to see you again. And Mary Jo, last but not least, good to see you again. Take
Nice
care.
to see you too.
All right, guys, have fun.
So,
Yeah,
I was
you're in
gonna
the
say,
right seat.
anybody have any specific qualifications for who wants to lead the meetings at all?
obviously we have a CEO and whatnot, and small business owner. Anybody feel comfortable doing that, especially in a public venue?
I'm not uncomfortable. The deadline, most of May, I'll be traveling, so there is a,
After April, no, right, we have, the deadline's May first.
the deadline's May first,
May
apparently,
1st.
unless we adjust that, but I'm just full disclosure that from the 29th of April through about the third week, I'll be in different places, or at least the first couple weeks.
Yeah, I'll be gone the first week of May as well.
Yeah, and just by the nature of my business, I travel at least 4 days a week. So even though I have the time to devote to the committee itself, I don't really feel I can do justice to being the foreman or.
We could have a vice chair that could take over,
Yeah,
or vice versa.
Should we go by the agenda first, though, and adopt the bylaws?
yes and no, I mean, we still need somebody to lead the
Okay.
meeting, that was my purpose.
Questions?
But yes, absolutely, we can start with bylaws if you prefer.
Well, I guess the question of, do we need a secretary is the first one for adopting the bylaws. It's the one question I heard.
I'm into your question about having Diane do it, and Diane's point about us participating while not taking notes. I think it's good if we just participate.
Many times, there's somebody that is taking notes administratively, but there's a secretary that's an official member of the group that sort of has, like, maybe first eyes or the most
Or
scrutinous
reviews
eyes
them,
on
reviews
the
them,
minutes
yeah.
that are prepared, because it's our responsibility for
Okay.
what they say, and ultimately the whole group that would be approving, those minutes, so, but the real hard lifting is,
Diane,
I can't
We're
see
pointing,
what she's
we're pointing at you.
She can't see me, I can't
She's
see
gonna
her.
be Atlas for a while. Okay.
Were there any questions about the bylaws?
I had
Did
a
anybody have?
couple notes that I made that are just my way of being picky. Item 4, it says the term, in the last sentence says, no person shall be appointed for more than 2 such terms. And I'd like to add the word in, than 2 consecutive such terms, so that they can work 2 terms, be off a term, and then if they wanted to, or if the commission wanted to appoint them again, whatever, they could. For you guys that are younger that are gonna live that long. But, after the parentheses on 2, I would add the word consecutive. If anybody's interested in that.
I don't have a problem with that.
Anybody have any issues?
Well, and dealing with that similar thing, this is an appointment for 2 years that ends in December of '26, but this is March of '24.
That's a question.
That's almost 6, that's 2.5 years.
No, it's,
So 2 years from now
Oh,
will
yeah.
be March of 2026, and
Yeah.
so, Diane or Mark, who's able to answer these questions, or do we just make up our answers?
So the 2-year term, it would be from the time that you're appointed until the time that it ends. I do think that we'd like to actually have it end in December, because since it is a short process that we'd like to have done by May, it'd be nice to have a new commission set by January 1st of the next term, if necessary. So, I would like to say that it would be December 2025 would be my recommendation, but that is up to you guys. How you like.
That'd be the end of the first term.
Correct.
Okay.
So for the term here, somehow we would need to insert language that said that the
first,
fir-
the initial term will end on,
the initial commission's term would end December of 2025, and could serve one more term, and then this takes over. I'm not very good at wordsmithing, so secretary doesn't work for me.
So you want to, item 4, you want to define that the initial term of members ends December of 2025.
I think that's what I'm.
December-
That gives us.
December 31st, 2025. And then,
The first year.
yeah. And then add the word consecutive after the parent after 2.
And to let you know too, that 2 years and limited 2 years is in the RCW.
Mhm.
So I'll just run it by legal to make sure that it's
Okay.
okay if you skip a
Perfect.
term, can you come back and serve again? So we'll just run it by legal.
Okay, the other thing is, could we remedy this by making the 2-year term start the day that the resolution was passed by the county commissioners in January? So now we're only down to a few weeks instead of half a year.
So you're saying have the term begin typically from here forward, because your appointment was in, the end of February or March. So, yeah, you finish up 24, and then all of 25, like Mark said, and then end of 25. And then we'll be working on reappointing or getting new members for that next 26, 27 term.
I'm assuming that the way he was putting it was just because of the salary due dates and all that is why we're having such a short, deadline right now.
Yeah.
Is when the RCWs were accepted and then when we were formed. And so, I mean, after that, that's why we're ending December. But that way, everybody else after this first term is going to be able to serve that entire 2 years.
I think if we just say the first term ends, then it ends, we may not need to, we couldn't be a commission before the Board of County Commissioners appointed
Right.
the commissioners
Yeah.
to the commission.
Yes, I agree with that.
So the initial term
So
will begin
It just
as
said-
of today and end
Yeah,
12/25.
we just said when it,
It
just,
began on
just
your
by saying
appointment, yeah.
when it ends, I think is, from whenever the bylaws are passed.
And
And
we
I
can
have
always
no
adopt
argument
it.
with that at all. I
But
just
thank
want
you
to be
for
clear
asking that
about it.
question, because I had the same one, it's like
We
2
can always
plus 2.
adopt it pending
Yeah.
legal review too.
Good point, yeah.
Okay, I had another one.
Okay.
Wasn't that fun?
We're glad you're here.
Where it says officers, it says on a yearly basis, commission members shall elect a chair, vice chair, and secretary, and then I put from among the members. It doesn't say that, it's implied, but
From among
Should say
commission
it.
board members.
yeah. From among commission board members. And the last one, number 7, under commission expenses, it says, however, members may be reimbursed for their mileage costs. And then I added at the rate set for county employees.
Yes.
Do you know what rate that is right now, Diane?
I think it might be 56 cents a mile.
65 cents a mile.
55?
65.
65.
I'm sorry, my hearing aids aren't.
65.
65 cents.
Oh, 65
cents.
Thank you.
Do you guys just use the IRS rate?
We do.
Okay, all right.
That's what I was
Hey,
confused.
hey, question on that, guys. Sorry, I feel like distant, so, because I'm, doing this virtually. Right now, because I'm without a vehicle, I obviously would prefer to be there in person. If I Ubered, would that be reimbursed? I don't know. I know it says mileage costs, but.
I would say,
Just a question on that.
I would still personally leave it at mileage rates, because even
Okay.
when we use our personal vehicles, we're burning our gas,
Correct.
and all that. And so your mode of transportation, your choice of mode of transportation would still be reimbursed at mileage.
Is this intended
Okay.
though to be to and from meetings, or is it to be in case we have to do anything?
I would think if we have to go to a
I
different
can't
site.
hear you, so.
I said, is this intended to be to and from meetings, or is this intended to be something that's called for outside of a meeting?
I would think outside, right? I mean,
I
if we
think
have
if
to
there was a
change in venue.
change in venue or
If the
somebody
county, I guess,
needed to
directed
visit.
you to go somewhere, yes, but
Yeah.
it's intended for to and from meetings.
Yeah.
I can't imagine we would direct you to go anywhere else.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't either.
So it's to and from meetings.
Well,
Yeah, I'm sure
I
it's
think
to and from meetings.
There could be, for instance, if there was a,
I said on the historic preservation, and the mileage thing is only if we go someplace else on behalf. But at least that's how we've interpreted it.
Should we add that language to and from meetings to section 7?
That might clarify things. That might be better, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully, I'll have my
The other-
vehicle repaired. So
the other
by next,
alternatives to official
meeting, I'll be able
duties,
to be in
like-
person, so I apologize about that, guys.
I can't imagine what those official duties are right now. not planning to go visit the Benton Board of County Commissioners.
Trip to Kennewick.
But, if for some reason that was a compelling thing to do, if it's just officially related to our work as a commission.
Yeah, to and from meetings and official duties. That makes sense.
Those are the only comments I had on bylaws.
We have 11 people, am I counting right?
10 on the
Yeah.
commission.
10.
10, okay.
Yes. So
There's 9
is
here
that what
and
we
1
have?
on Zoom.
Okay.
8, 6, 9, 10, yeah.
I was looking at, section 8 and the 7 members rule, just doing math in my head. I think,
Yeah, so in voting, anything that is passed has to have an affirmative vote by 7 of the
7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
of
assuming
not less than 7, so it's, yeah, it's a hard number. So if there's 6 people here, nothing gets done. If there's 8 people here, 7 of the 8 have to
Well,
be
for
in
the
the affirmative.
salaries.
Yeah, for the actual salaries, yeah.
Otherwise, the quorum consists of
Yeah.
50 plus 1, so that'd be 6, I would
Yeah.
assume.
So we could meet without,
Mhm.
voting on, we could meet but be unable to make a decision about
On-
salaries.
On salary, yeah.
That makes sense. I don't feel that.
Okay.
It seems like that's,
You can conduct business, but you can't.
I have a
Pass.
question, who's gonna set the agenda each time?
The chair, I would guess.
Hmm?
The chair, I would imagine. Unless, Diane, is that something you
Yes,
would do?
typically at the end of the meeting, we would talk about what do you want on the next agenda.
Okay.
And then I could draft the agenda, send it to the chair to make sure, yes, that's what you intended, and then it'll get circulated. Because really, it should be about, I mean, your topic is elected official salaries, right? Pretty simple.
yeah. The only other question I think I had is, because of the terms that we talked about, I should have grabbed a water for that, before, if there is a vacancy, is that covered? How does,
I think it's
that's
covered.
in
Yes,
the,
vacancies are
yeah, it's covered over here, right?
Yeah, it's covered in the RCW itself.
In a resolution that the commissioners passed to create the commission, we covered some of that, so.
Yeah.
In
There's-
a manner of the initial appointment. So if it's one of us that was appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, they would appoint somebody else. And if it was one of you all that got really lucky in the lottery, then there would be another random draw by that
Yeah.
district. Okay. And the other question,
So
did you have a
that should
question?
be, is that already
It's
in
in
the?
the.
It's in the RCW. Section 3 of the RCW.
Yeah, this is actually county
It's a county resolution.
resolution, right?
Which is based on RCW.
Pursuant to the RCW.
Yeah, pursuant, sorry.
Is it typically something, Diane, that, about the public comment, that gets defined in the bylaws, or do we?
It's just that you have to allow it to be in compliance with Open Public Meetings Act. Because you are a decision-making board,
Right.
the OPMA was changed after COVID, so we have to allow public comment. And that's why also we have the Zoom option, because they can do it in person or via Zoom.
So I guess my question is a little more specific than that, like, is it in the bylaws, or should we determine now, or at some point, what the parameters of that public comment period looks like, or just sort of wing it?
That
when
you
it
could
comes up?
define, like if you want to limit the amount of time, do you want it at the beginning of your meeting, do you want it at the end of your meeting? So yes, that you could define.
In the bylaws?
I think
Or somewhere else?
I'm thinking the agenda itself, once that's set up, as Diane said, it could be, it's either at the beginning of the meeting or at the end of the meeting, midpoint of the meeting, but normally you wanna set some
It's set
parameters.
15 minutes or something like that.
Well, yeah, or 3 minutes per.
Let's do it at the,
representative.
let's do it at the end and set the time limit, so we don't have filibustering.
Yeah.
Historically, how long has public comment lasted in these type of matters?
On the commission meetings, we allow 15 minutes total, 3 minutes per person.
That works.
3 minutes per person? I mean,
Mhm.
historically, how much participation have we had?
This is the first time we've had a salary commission,
Oh, okay, all right. So we have no idea what the public comment, how much active participation we'll have.
Right, but I can tell you tonight you have 0 public here, so
Oh,
I think
okay.
15 minutes will be plenty.
Yeah.
Well, it's, unfortunately, in these type of situations, it only takes one ding-dong who shows up and decides they want to election the commission for an hour, so you never know.
Yeah, in our bylaws, I would recommend putting a limit on, 3 minutes per person, 15 minutes total. And I would do it at the end, that way we can modify the future agenda if we need to, if they bring up a valid point.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the 15-minute total, because we have no idea what the feedback would be, and I suppose we could always vote at that meeting
Extend
to
it.
extend it if we wanted to,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I'd be comfortable with that then.
Okay.
Well, and I have the same concerns as you do, because basically, by only allowing 3 minutes per person at a 15-minute limit, we're only limited access to public comment to 5 people. These gentlemen seem to make it very clear that they want the public to be involved in this.
Yeah.
So situational dependent.
Yeah, I think as long as somehow it's worded that we can vote to extend that time during the meeting if we have
Yeah.
interest
Yeah.
out the door, around the block. I mean,
It's gonna be that way,
and
we're
that
gonna
also
know by
gives
the
us a-
first 10 minutes of the
It
meeting.
gives us a stopgap that way to, so we
Yeah.
aren't at a meeting until the next morning.
Yeah.
If there is that much interest, so.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Yep, we can readjust as needed, I'm fine with that.
We can still keep it at 3 minutes per, and just
Yeah.
extend the total.
Is it
And we could
necessary to
accept-
put that in the bylaws, or can we just adopt that as, or can we just practice that?
Something I thought, when I was watching the video, said that it should be somewhere. It wasn't really clear to me as to where that place was.
You
So
can place it
one
on the
is
agenda,
and-
Probably on the agenda, I would say, I don't know, is that part of the bylaws that,
It doesn't have to be in the bylaws, but you can direct me to have it on the agenda, and I can, on the commission agendas, we have a little disclaimer on there saying, it's a 3-minute, 15-minute total kind of thing, that way people are aware that yes, you could always expand it if you wanted to. It'd be at the board's discretion, so.
Subject to board discretion.
Sound good to everybody?
I like that idea.
So, and you want it at the end of your agendas?
yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just, that's where I went.
So also, while I'm thinking about it, when I send out information, or if you want information to come in, don't reply all, because you are subject to the Public Records Act. And it could be considered a serial meeting if you were going back and forth. So I'll say, if I send out information and you have comments, just send them to me only, because then I can distribute them again to the committee. But you can't go back and forth among yourselves, because that's considered a public meeting.
Good to know.
Right, just to reinforce that, so, we can communicate directly with Diane, but we shouldn't conduct commission business via email, because that looks like it's a public meeting, but not held publicly, so that's why a lot of people use blind carbon copy when they email back and forth.
However, I believe your blind carbon copies are subject to subpoena.
Oh, yeah, that's all subject to, public records, but it doesn't look like we're conducting business
Yeah.
away from the public eye.
So what we just tell commissioners is, don't reply all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't go and have coffee together and you're gonna chat about what your business is. Our
Yeah.
business is conducted in an open public meeting in here.
I'd like
Okey-dokey
to
then.
suggest that it says adoption of bylaws on our agenda, but I would rather see a final copy at our next meeting before we adopt it.
Okay?
Yeah, I'm good with that too, because hopefully I'll be able to be there in person. It is actually kind of a little bit difficult to hear in some capacity, but yeah, we'll make the best of it for today.
All right, so, any other questions, comments, thoughts? Bylaws? Yeah, there's a lot of other questions and thoughts.
guess we move on.
Next step, number 4, selection of officers.
Are there volunteers?
Did you have interest?
I can do it. I've never, held any type of commission or board position, but I'm more than willing to step up and do a position if needed.
Any other volunteers?
Did you volunteer to be chair?
I think that's what I heard.
I think for a position.
Oh, Roger?
No, no.
Oh.
Talking about Jim.
Sure, if there's somebody that's a vice chair.
I could be a vice chair if you want,
Mary Jo?
unless you would like to be a vice chair, Lee.
Honestly, yeah, actually, and that's specifically to set apart the people who were selected by lottery versus people who were appointed. I think having a chair and vice chair separate would be a good idea.
You're it.
So
Well,
the
I
chair-
would,
Spoken like a vice
I would
chairman.
nominate the gentleman to my right as chair and gentleman here on the end of the table as vice
Jim and
chair.
Lee.
Did I hear you had interest though?
I have no interest.
Oh, okay.
Do we have anybody interested in being secretary?
Here's the tough one.
Mary, do you want to be secretary?
I can't, I've got hearing aids and I
Oh.
miss some conversations occasionally.
Do you want to be secretary?
Not especially if I'm missing conversations, I don't think
Okay.
I'd be a
I'll just-
good one for it.
Well, you're going to take the minutes, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Braden, did you make that motion?
I don't know if we have a
No,
motion.
Matt
yet.
made.
I made the motion.
Matt
Oh,
made a
And
motion.
Yeah.
this is,
No,
is this,
My
Yeah, I
only,
was gonna say, I didn't make a motion.
oh,
my
I'm
only
sorry.
consideration,
So this
just
is
again,
Matt,
is that I will
okay.
not be in the country on the 29th of April, if that's, I don't know that that's when we have to report, but the vice chair can report to the committee. Do we report to the Board of County Commissioners, or
You
we don't know
file
yet?
your recommendation with the county auditor.
With the county auditor?
Okay.
Okay, so the county auditor can report to the Board of County Commissioners, if we'd like him to.
We have a motion on the table. Did someone second it? I'll
And Matt
second
made
it.
the motion, right?
I'll second it.
Sharon's.
Now we can have discussion.
Sorry.
Did you just volunteer to be secretary?
No, I seconded
That was slick, that was slick.
She's very good at detail.
That was slick.
She's not missing too much
I'm
of this
friend lots.
conversation.
No, I think that hearing it is to throw us off.
it. Yeah.
Give her that slick in.
Okay, so I wanna make sure I have the motion right. So Matt made the motion, Jan seconded to appoint Jim Morel as chair and Leland, what's your last name?
Wells.
Wells. As vice chair.
W-E-L-O-S.
As vice chair, correct?
Yes.
Do you have a motion on the floor?
And is there a secretary?
No, we're at discussion. We'll have to do a
We're at
separate motion
discussion.
for secretary.
Well,
If there's no discussion,
If there's-
then you
If there's
just
a
call
friendly
for it.
amendment
Is
to
there
add you
anybody
as
opposed?
secretary to the motion by the two makers of the motion.
Yeah,
then I'll
right.
take care of it at
Is
once.
anybody
No, we can
opposed,
just
or
vote.
I was gonna say, with
We
motion
just
on the
vote.
table, it's been seconded.
Okay.
Has it been seconded?
Yeah.
She
Okay,
said
seconded.
second.
Oh.
Okay,
So then we just call the vote.
yep.
Yeah.
It's your job to call the vote. It will be yours.
Well, yeah, I think it's
All those in
consensus,
favor?
right, everybody
Yeah, all
in
of
favor?
us.
He's right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's lovely, thank you.
Any
Ayes have
nays?
it. Any nays?
Okay,
So we have another topic of secretary. Any nominations?
I would prefer not to. Sorry.
Fair enough.
Does
All you
anybody
have to do is, right now, all you're doing is reviewing the minutes, Diane. Right.
and I'll send them out to the group. So really, in this capacity, the secretary's job is
Yeah.
kind of nothing.
I'll do it.
There you go.
Mary Jo.
Mary Jo.
Mary.
Yay.
All right.
A second?
Well, we have to move first.
Oh, I can't second, Sherry, I'm sorry. Well, I thought there was a motion, but I thought Leland made a motion, but does anybody move to,
I move for,
need a second?
Second.
Any other discussion about that? Any longing,
Diane has to
desire?
promise not to retire until this
I'm
term
not
is
promising
over.
Mary Jo.
excuse me.
All right.
We'll see
So-
how this goes. Okay, Mary Jo made the motion, I'm sorry, your name,
No, I
Jan
volunteered.
Jan
Oh.
made the motion.
for Mary Jo.
Yeah. Devin Furnace.
Jan, I think you should do it. Jan
Any other questions or discussions about that? All in favor? For Mary Jo, that's her.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, congratulations, Mary Jo.
Yay.
So, the next task will be meeting schedule. For us to look, so hopefully people have some semblance of their calendars.
It's hard to know how many meetings we're gonna need.
It is really hard, considering that we have essentially 1 month.
Yeah.
My anticipation is that we may want to establish weekly meetings, and then unless Diane tells us otherwise, we could cancel a meeting if we didn't feel it was necessary.
Okay. Can we have some discussion about the frequency of the meetings and everything?
Yeah, because you travel.
But a couple of things. Having done stuff similar to this 20 years ago, when talking with Steve, it was mentioned that one of our first jobs would be to create a mission vision statement for the committee. Are we still going to do that? I don't see it on the agenda.
That's a good question.
It has, in my experience in previous life, it has a huge impact on the time for the first 2 meetings, because we all get caught up in wordsmithing and making it totally right.
I am unsure on that, in that we do have the commissioner's resolution that outlines the mission and purpose of the group. We have some bylaws of the group. The scope of the work, it's fairly narrow in the sense that we're here to discuss salary and compensation for, for a block of elected officials.
Yeah.
And so if we wanted to take the time, I think it'd be a pretty limited scope on what the mission of the group is.
Yeah. And I feel comfortable with what we've got now. I'm just saying, is that something that we absolutely have to do?
I agree with Matt. I think that it's fairly written out here, unless that's a requirement from the handbook.
It is not a requirement.
It is not a requirement.
That's
Then
what
I would
answer I
be
was
for not
looking
doing
for.
it.
And you're on a very tight timeline, and yes, that can take a lot of time. And you know your mission.
Yeah, I've seen it take the first 1 to 2 meetings.
Yeah.
Just to get that, and that's,
And you know
we
the
don't
point
have
of why
it.
you're here, so.
Yeah.
The scope is defined, just so everybody's clear, and all of those who'd be watching at home, or will be. Section 7 of the resolution that the Board of County Commissioners passed is really the powers and duties of the commission, and it outlines what that narrow purpose is that you mentioned, and the timeline that we're striving for, and the process for the steps that have to be accomplished. The reason I asked Commissioner Netherland about the timeline, and I don't know really anything about the county's budgeting process, but I'm guessing
I think someone over there does.
Mark, that May 1 sort of is a preface or leads into that timeline, and is also a second consideration prior to filing deadlines for elected office.
So I don't know if the elected office filing timeline was an issue, but I do know that this will, in the future, would go into effect January 1 through December. Our budget process is that mid-year, so June, July timeframe, we will have a budget amendment that we do midway through the year, and then we do a final budget amendment towards the end of the year, November timeframe.
So the budget question, it sounds like it would be helpful if we accomplish this by the 1st of May, because that would head into the budget. On the second question, do you know when the filing deadline or week is?
It is the second week of May, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah, sometime in
It
May,
is.
second week. So my thought connected to that was if people were contemplating or considering running for office at one of the county elected offices, that they would know prior to that filing deadline what they would be getting, the $500,000 a year or the $1 a year that we pass.
Well, it also determines how much they have to pay to file. There's a
Oh,
cost to
yeah.
filing. It's
Oh,
based on the
that's right.
salary that they'll be given.
Yeah.
Mark, is your fiscal year, is it Jan 1 or is it?
January 1st through December 31st.
Okay, thank you.
So, that's a good question that I don't know, Mark, if you know the answer to, like, I have an assumption that the filing fee would be based on the current salary, and that the salaries that we would be establishing would go into effect January 1 of 2025.
No, per the resolution, the salaries that you select in this process will go into effect immediately.
Immediately.
I do believe there is a 30. I'm sorry?
Oh, no, I think he said no.
There is a 30-day period that the public could want to file a referendum. They would have to collect enough signatures to get that filed. And then that would go on the ballot, so.
So do we know if there's any consideration to Mary Jo's question about the decision made by this commission and the effect that it may or may not have on filing fees the second week of May?
I don't know the answer to that question. That would be a good question for Auditor Dunkel, since he handles those, and I will definitely reach out to him and get that back to you on that.
Okay. That would be helpful, thank you. So,
Are we still in meeting?
yeah, we're still establishing the frequency of meetings. and
I listened
dates.
to Mark's interview, or Mike's, Matt,
Matt.
excuse me. And I agreed with him in that I think if we can have a lot of information quickly, we can pull you said we could probably knock it out in a couple afternoons or something like that.
Based on my experience, it's how, the more information, comparison data you have, and the time to look at it, it's helpful. Again, the scope of the work is fairly narrow. It's determining levels of compensation for the elected officials.
So I would like to see us, this is just my idea, have another meeting pretty quickly to decide what information we want, hopefully heavily influenced by your input, and then we could set a couple meetings after that. But if you're right, and I agree with you so far, you know, we may not need to have a meeting every week forever.
Yeah, so on the first part, I think that's the next topic is we can ask for any information that might be on our minds now. Does not preclude us from asking for additional information at that fairly soon next meeting. For my schedule, if it's not on my calendar, then the calendar's gonna get filled.
I'm fair with that.
So.
That's good. We can always cancel.
We can always cancel a meeting, but it's more difficult sometimes to add meetings. So for myself, and I'm assuming there's one other person that travels and other people with schedules. So that was my thought. I wasn't committing us to those, but it was setting us up for success to be able to get through it in a month if we needed to.
Are you suggesting later this week or the first part?
Well, I was gonna
next
say
week?
either later this week or the very first part of next week, yeah.
So.
Would you want to entertain maybe, if tonight's night one, maybe going out 2 more sessions and then reconvening? We'll try to set 3 more sessions with the idea that we might not need to do the third.
Or if I could offer an alternative, and this is a little selfish, I'll say this, the next 4 Mondays, my calendar is free on Monday evenings. And so we could set 2 or 3 or 4 and then cancel the ones further out if we got things accomplished sooner than that, but I don't know if a Monday evening.
My calendar, Monday works fine, and so does Tuesday.
Yeah.
Monday after, in the evening?
At the same time, what time did we start today? 5:30?
Yeah.
I can get here by then.
I think Monday at 5:30 sounds good, as well as it being the start of the business week. So any questions we have would be able to generally get back to us during that same week.
And just to let you know, April 8th, I'm not in, so it's the only Monday I have a conflict with.
Looks like our secretary's stepping up.
Do you have a backup, Diane?
Do Mondays work for you, Braden?
Yeah, Mondays would work for, Mondays and Tuesdays, I agree that, you know, if we set them early in the week, then that gives us enough business days to, you know, follow up on any questions or, you know, concerns we have for other agencies, things like that. My only scheduling conflict is 18th through the 20th, so that's not a Monday or a Tuesday. So hopefully by this time next week, I'll be able to be there in person.
Yeah, Mondays were for me in April.
So Diane, you're not available on the 8th, and I think.
No, but I can have Mackenzie come in, she would love to.
Okay.
She'll be my backup.
Make sure she has all the answers when she comes, please.
I will, and I'm looking,
Yes.
it looks like Mark is open too.
Yeah, who else do we need to check with?
Yeah, who else?
It depends what information you want, and
Okay.
where I need to get it from, so.
All right.
I like to bring you the experts in case you have additional questions on the information that you're given, but
Okay.
Well, it seems like Monday
So
would
Mondays-
facilitate that,
Mondays
because they're
are-
all at work and.
So I
5:30.
assume you're the experts.
I will be here as much as you need.
Okay.
You are incredible, thank you.
Yes.
So 5:30 to 7:30 on Mondays,
Okay.
the 1st, 8th, 15th, and 22nd.
And can we have Randy bring the barbecue?
April Fool's Day, Tax Day, and Earth Day.
Or at least the food truck, something.
So, I don't think we need to vote on that, or do we need to vote on
No, I don't think
meetings
so.
for public meetings? I'm not.
And as long as it will be posted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, plenty of warning to watch us on the interwebs.
Yeah, send out postcards to your friends and family. If we have any after this.
Did you skip the 8th?
No, we included
No,
that.
including the 8th.
She's gonna have someone else sub for her.
Okay,
1, 8, 15, and 22.
perfect.
So, for okay, to move forward to item 6, salary setting information from human resources, and perhaps we can see what's on people's minds for that information. And, I'm sorry.
Mary.
Mary Jo, Mary can help us with that, and then if we could also add any other resources that we would want to hear from for future meetings. All of us may or may not be at the next meeting, but we could at least get things started if we wanted to hear from every elected official or not, or if we wanted to hear from somebody else or not. So maybe the first thing would be HR information for salaries, and I don't know.
Does she have something for us tonight?
Oh, well, let's start there.
So it's a little meaty. I don't know if the commission would like to take a quick break. If you need, it's been like an hour, I don't know. I just want to throw that out there. It's a little.
I've been in meetings since 7 a.m. this morning.
Big packet.
It's like, at this point, they're just blurring together.
Okay.
But I'm open to that break if anybody would like.
I'm okay. Do we have a
Okay.
time frame you want to take?
Oh, you're okay with somebody would like a break or no
Yeah,
break?
I'm okay with a break.
A break?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
So-
10 minutes?
Yeah,
10 minutes, so we'll reconvene at 6:35.
or however long it takes the chair to find a bottle of water.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Okay, so I actually have for you, because I'm always recruiting,
Uh-oh.
obviously.
Oh, boy.
I have bags for you, and then also there are water bottles in there.
Nice. Thank you.
There you
So,
go.
and the restrooms are right out here in the lobby, if you need that.
Oh, they're water. They are bottles.
Thank you.
They are bottles, because I'm all about, saving the planet.
Come back
Say hello to
to order
74.
before we dive into the HR information. Roger had a question regarding the frequency of the meetings.
I would like to see what the general consensus is, because these people are going to want to have information on their salaries before they either go to the make application or when they run, if it's going to be worth it, or what are they gonna base this on? Are we gonna need to set some sort of a salary? Are we going to need to meet more often, or say every 3 or 4 days?
Any thoughts for responses to Roger's question?
I think that's why they gave us the May 1st deadline for sure.
Right.
But until we can look at some of this material that we're getting tonight, I don't think we're gonna be able to figure out, how difficult this is gonna be or how often we're gonna have to meet.
Okay,
We haven't even talked about maybe going into subcommittees to have different groups check out different things, and maybe we wouldn't want to do that anyway. But I don't think that's an answer we can have tonight as far as how many meetings.
you answered it.
So you comfortable with that?
I'm comfortable with that, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you for raising the question. I think there'll be a lot of questions, so try and make sure that those get all answered, but if I don't see your question or hear your question, we can't talk about it, so. So, looks like Mary has some information from HR, and why don't you go ahead and dance
Sure.
us through this
Okay.
riveting.
Quite the dance. It's very intricate. So in Mason County, our Board of County Commissioners has adopted in the last couple years a compensation philosophy. And our philosophy has to do with determining who our like employers are in our area to determine our labor market and who we're gonna be able to compare ourselves to. So this means organizations that have, a similar tax base, assessed valuation, maybe they have a certain, budget that's similar to ours, provide similar services. And so based on those types of parameters and data, and then a 50% above or below our demographics, this list of counties under number 1 here on comparable agencies, these are the counties that for all compensation in the county, for non-represented employees, represented employees, we even just did a review of our Board of Equalization members to see what their salary stipends are. These are the counties that we're going out and comparing to. There are comparable counties. One question I get a lot of is, well, why aren't you looking at Thurston or Kitsap or Pierce? They're our neighbors.
Size.
Thank you. Size is a big one. Also, their tax base is huge, right? We would be hemorrhaging money trying to keep up with them. So these pieces of criteria in number 1 are really what we're trying to use quantifiable data that will help drive where we're looking at for our labor market. So the counties that surround us, that are larger with more money, those are our competitors. But the comparables where we actually can use the dollars is what we're doing for the rest of the county employees are these 7 counties that are on your list right here.
I know you don't have any eastern Washington counties over there.
Not currently, no. The reason being, a lot of comparable data is grounded in interest arbitration, and so they say there's a geographical proximity. However, there is a lot of data that's coming through as best practice in HR that you may need to start potentially moving outside of that because everything on the west side is getting so big that we're gonna run out of comparables pretty soon. And there are ways to adjust for cost of living, and so those are conversations that the board has been having, but currently these are our 7.
Is there a hard limit on how many counties you can compare to?
Nope. Trying to keep it below 10 is more manageable because it's a lot of data.
Yeah.
I think 7's been a nice sweet spot. The reason being, if you have 4 or more, then you have over 50% of them and you have a good number to go off of and what we call a benchmark. We're like, oh, we've got at least 4, we're over 50% of our group of 7. We have a decent number of pieces of data to make a decision now.
Maybe we'll get into this, Mary, so just tell me, it's coming up later. As far as the responsibilities or the job descriptions for our elected positions are similar to the elected positions in these counties? And
Yes.
similar structure, they all have a county administrator?
Not all of them have a county administrator, but the elected positions are exceptionally similar, yes.
Okay, that might be one piece of information if it's not in here.
Which counties have a county administrator?
Yeah.
Sure, we can get that for you.
And what about charter and non-charter counties?
These are all non-charter
These are all non-charter.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that information contain comparables as for duties?
Yes.
For each of the job titles in each of the different counties?
Yes, so, each elected, I think, was that in the packet, the Waco? I hate saying Waco,
Yeah, they did put that.
Washington County officials. Document spells out, and, I believe that the positions are extremely similar, but Auditor Dunkel, if that's something that the commission would like, is there a statement of, are you asking for a different statement of work or position description, or?
So one is structural, that was my question, I think that your question was similar statement of, or just a job description basically, is we have what ours are, and are they the same or similar to other counties that are on the comparable list?
I just, you know, if we're gonna start this out, we might as well start out apples to apples, oranges to oranges, and find the ones that are closest we can.
Or is that a you question?
Actually, I just wanted to let the commission know that I had emailed Steve because the commission had a question regarding whether the salary that you set, if it's set on May 1st, would that be the salary used to, thank you, Mary, would that be the salary used to set the filing fee for individuals filing? I believe it's the second week of May?
So I came down to answer that question, so your inputs, your decision is due and effective May 1st, right? Filing week is May 6th through May 10th, so if I do the math correctly, your salary inputs would be effective for candidate filing.
Okay. I think that was your question, Mary Jo?
Yeah.
Or,
I knew that, that's. that's what
I guess the question that arose from your question was answered by the auditor, yeah.
And then I kind of, if I hear you guys correctly, you're looking for an apples to apples comparison of the statements of work from the different elected official offices from county to county? Because there are differences.
Yes.
Right. The auditor's job is varies, there's probably 39 different variations of it.
So of the 7 county, so right now, or when you came in, we were talking about the 7 comparable counties that the Board of County Commissioners has identified as part of the compensation philosophy. So I think at the moment, it would be those 7. And an aspect of that is structure. So we have a county administrator, some of the counties may, some others may not.
I can get you an org chart. The only thing that there are not usually position descriptions for elected officials in other counties. It's not a generally accepted practice because they're all driven from RCW usually. I can always ask, and if they have them, I can bring them, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a lot of responses.
Okay.
We don't even have them here.
Or description.
And I'm not looking for exactly the same. Everybody's job changes, and they, even within the county in their own position, they change as needed. So I'm just trying to get as close as we can.
I love it, and I love your apples to apples philosophy.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
perfect.
Okay, org chart
Is there anything you
and
guys want me to go research or dig up to support the discussion?
Mary, do you have, you'll
I've got it.
taking that away?
Yep.
I think Mary has that. Any other
Okay.
questions for the auditor while he's here?
Then I will escape
Thank you,
back
sir.
to my office.
All right, we'll see you in about 45 minutes.
I like that.
Mary, just clarifying,
Yeah.
I'm
so
here to
for
support
the
real
7
time.
counties,
Yeah.
you said this is what the county utilizes for all of their salary for represented, unrepresented.
Correct.
When you go into your salary research, and when you start bargaining with your
Yep.
representative, okay,
Yep,
okay. So
Yep.
is your static group at least for short term?
yep, for right now it is.
Okay.
Mhm.
You said you had corporate, like, comparisons, like what it would be if they were in regular business as opposed to?
No, these are all
Just
county organizations. We try to stay away from comparing to like the state or city or private or anything like that. We want to stay as like to us as possible to make, back to your point, sir, about the apples to apples, that's the goal. Any other questions on the comps themselves? Okay, so the second, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Mason County now has a county administrator. Some counties do, some counties don't. Some counties have one person that helps the county commissioners. Other counties have, each commissioner has a secretary or somebody that works with them. Is there anything that shows that as far as how much help they get?
That would probably come, it will be reflected in those org charts, organization charts that I can get for you, for sure. But that, yeah, that's a good point. So the number 2 piece is the market position. So the second piece of our compensation philosophy is once we've identified who we're gonna compare ourselves to, okay, what determines if we're within market or if we're out of market? So how do we know if we're way behind or way ahead? What determines that? So currently, if you were to list all 7 of those counties and Mason County in there as well, based on those pieces of data, we're gonna sit right in the middle. So right about the 50th percentile. So that's where we're targeting in our labor market because that's where we sit. If we were to sit, in higher, like at 75th percentile, that may be where the board aims, but currently it's at this 50th because we end up right in the middle. Now, in order to give a little bit of wax on either side, a little bit of give, there's a 10% spread. So if we're at the 50th percentile and someone shows up as -5% under market or +5% over market, we're gonna consider that 10% spread where they need to be. We're gonna have that little bit of a cushion there. We're not looking for 50th right on the dot because it's impossible. So a little bit there. So let's say we go out and comp HR directors among our comps, okay? And they come back and they're like, Mary's like way overpaid, okay? And she's like 10% over. She does not need a market adjustment. Freeze her where she's at, she's good, don't give her any more money, you know what I mean? It's over that number. If it was like at -2%, you're good, just stay on your step path, you're fine, keep going, you're within that market. If I was 14% below, they may say, whoa, can you like at least get us to -5 and get us back within market where we need to be? So that kind of helps drive those decisions that the board makes when it comes to compensation. And again, back to your point, it's applied to all county employees, same philosophy. Number 3, I went ahead and put what the current elected official salaries are in the county. You can see everyone is the same except for the sheriff. And then the next couple pages, I kind of put a brief history. There actually were a lot more resolutions, but I didn't want to go back too far and start digging and create rabbit holes. So these are the ones that are currently being referenced, and then I attached the actual resolutions towards the back so you can read them. And you can see here that the only one that's still kind of being used and referenced is Resolution 7312, which says, hey, y'all get 1%, right, each year. And then there's some other history about positions, but when you see 1% on the salary spread for the next section, where it says like 2016, commissioners 1% increase, 1% increase. It's because of that resolution. That's the oldest one that's still being referenced. The rest of them, I just tried to put it in historical order because it's easier for me to look at numbers. I don't know about y'all, but if you want to see it in a different format, let me know and I can bake it up a different way for you.
Well, looking at the numbers.
So just to-
particularly
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The sheriff's salary is glaringly large.
And that was,
Does he still fall within that 10%, 5% plus or minus of?
so his, actually number 5, perfect segue, is what the market position overview is right now. So the sheriff is actually -0.07. He is within market. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So does everybody see, because some of us may have a little bit of familiarity looking at salaries like this and comparables. Even thwe of us that do can get glassy-eyed about all of the data. So
It's a lot.
since you raised this particular position, we don't have page numbers, but it's the one that says sheriff. And maybe Mary, you could just walk us through that as an example of Mason County, Clallam, low, high, 50%, sort of what that means.
Number 5, the market position.
Page 6. That's where she's starting.
Okay, was it on page 6?
Well, that is what she's.
Oh, she's referring to this and,
Yeah.
okay, I went to the more detail after that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was referring to the chart,
Oh, down to the,
4
okay.
pages later.
Well, you're just like ready to go, aren't you?
Well, that's where I saw the .07 first, so,
Okay.
sorry,
So
numbers guy.
no, it's fine. So number 5 is just kind of the overview. And then I went in and put what the different group wages are, so you can see what we've been negotiating and awarding for across the board.
So we're on the same thing here, she's got.
Okay, yep,
So it looks, Mary, it looks like in 20,
yeah.
21, they must have made it kind of a change to that. that resolution 7312, which is kind of a 1% increase.
Yes,
And
so.
22 is the same.
Correct, yeah, so,
Okay.
in January 1 of 2020, they did another resolution, which was 3919, and that's where that started to bring them, the rest of the elected officials closer to the county commissioners, and then it also changed the sheriff to be 5% above the under sheriff, not having their own scale. So they're specifically tied to a non-represented employee, not as like an elected official salary that's separate.
And how does the undersheriff's salary get set?
That's part of our class and comp study, so we're doing one for a non-rep group, so it'd be the same thing, once the study's done, if he's within market, there's no change. But currently, that position has a 2.5% step each year, so it's growing 2.5% each year.
So HR evaluates that then goes to the Board of County Commissioners and they're the ones that affirm that? Or
It's already in resolution, so it
it's
just
already in
happens.
resolution?
Yeah, so the sheriff is automatically getting a 2.5% increase along with the under sheriff each year, they're already tied together.
But the
So-
other positions we tried to 1%.
Correct, yeah.
So if the undersheriff and the sheriff are tied together, can this commission actually affect the sheriff's salary, judging by the resolution that's already passed?
I believe so.
Yeah, they won't be
Because-
tied together now.
So that's
Well,
my
I believe
understanding.
I believe the
is
decisions here can undo a resolution, am I right?
The commission would have to take that recommendation or the decision by the salary commission.
Okay.
And if there is a change to an existing resolution, then they would have to modify it.
Okay.
So short answer is yes. Yeah.
And I tried to put in here also, I think August is when the current undersheriff gets steps, so I put in here that the step happened there, you can see the numbers progressively start to continue to go up, yeah, and then the other commissioners go up by 1%,
Okay.
or elected.
And where was that? I'm sorry.
Let's see, so it starts on 2020. 8/1 of 2020, the sheriff, so you'll see the undersheriff starts to get their steps, and then it keeps going up.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And those step increases, you said was 2.5%?
Actually, yeah, well, for the undersheriffs was 2.5%, which was then reflected in the sheriffs,
Mhm.
which is that 5% above, so that would be 7.5. Where the other positions were at a 1% step increase.
We're only concerned with the elected officials, is that correct?
Yeah, I
The
think
rest of
the
this
interest
doesn't
in there is
pertain to
because this
our
is the only one that's,
Okay.
set on a non-repped or non-union position. And so the sheriff's salary, just to clarify though, if the undersheriff's goes up by 2.5%, the sheriff's would go up by 2.5%.
Yeah, there's always that 5% gap.
That makes sense. Rather than the 7.5%.
Okay.
Just to-
Good math, I'm glad you, okay.
Right?
It worked out well.
God, we have a numbers guy.
Okay, so, for number 5, I just did kind of a brief overview, and then number 6 is what the across the boards, that can be represented and they're non-represented, so basically every other employee has been getting in the county.
Okay.
And I just did about 3 years worth, so you can kind of see some trends there. And then after that, getting into the meat that you were talking about, sir, about the actual position and what it pays for county and the middle and all of that. So that's where it gets a little cross-eyed. It's a lot of numbers, a lot of data.
So, I'm sorry if you covered this already.
No, go ahead.
I might be a numbers guy, but I can also be slow. The 2%, where is that coming from?
The 2.5
The 2 or 2.5%,
for the undersheriff?
wages,
No,
wage
he's looking at
increases,
Oh, okay.
just like number 6, yeah.
For the across the wage increases for each
Yeah,
group?
yeah,
Those are just what we negotiate.
okay.
Basically, the commissioners do the negotiating for
Okay.
all of these other things. We got 15
15.
15 now? 15 unions? that they negotiate salaries
Speed to
and
that
benefits.
process.
and
Yes. Where's the
It's
two
a
and a half?
nightmare, but it,
Where's the 2.5 for the undersheriff? You said he was
Oh,
non-represented?
that's the space between steps, so he's at a range, and then each year he gets his, like step increase.
But where is that reflected in these group wage increases?
Those are not, each employee, based on their wage schedule, gets a step. So like, I've been here 6 years, I'm on my step 6, 7 years, step 7. Those are not reflected in
And,
these scales.
those top out at some point, I
Yeah,
imagine.
depending on the scale. Some have 7 steps, some have 10. It just depends on the group that they
So I
negotiated.
kind of had the same question. So 2020 is when the undersheriff receives step increases, and that's 2.5%.
That's,
And that number comes from,
but it was apparently something,
something that was negotiated at some
or
point.
decided by some,
So the step increases for the undersheriff, that's just a natural progression as they have tenure here and they get their step every year.
but where did the 2.5 for the undersheriff arrive from? And where did it come from?
From that step.
Right, but who decided it was 2.5
Yeah.
The salary schedule is adopted by the commissioners.
Okay.
The
By the
non-represented
commissioners,
salary
okay.
schedule. Mhm, they set that.
all right.
All negotiated.
And my assumption is the language about the sheriff being placed above the undersheriff is so as time goes on, the undersheriff is not paid
Right.
more than the sheriff.
I would
That's
assume
my
so, too.
assumption.
Yeah, and there's not a compression issue, yes.
So when we get to the actual meat, I don't see any years, or any time frame on
This-
these salary range.
These on the
charts.
where it's each position by each county.
Mhm.
So this is a current snapshot.
Okay.
This is all data as of right now.
Mary, is there anything, in looking at these salaries, do you ever look at benefits at all?
Those are total compensation studies, they're called TCCs, and they are very labor intensive. So
Okay.
at this point, no, we've just been
Okay.
looking at salary. I don't know about what the purview of the commission is around total compensation. I'm not sure if that's covered, Mark, or
That's a
it's
good
just
question.
salary.
Are we, as the commission, dealing with just salary-based money, or as factoring in benefits, perks, or whatever?
So when negotiating union contracts here at the county, the commissioners do decide and negotiate how much is paid towards benefits. So, depending on the union, it could be different, but there is an amount associated with, each employee that goes towards their benefit cost.
So I think the question is in our purview, powers and duties, the wording that was used was prepare a schedule of salaries.
Correct.
And is that word salaries refer to base salary or total compensation, total
Base
salary?
salary.
Base salary.
So it's base salary, but what I'm wondering is if we can consider total compensation in looking at the comparable salaries. And so like, for example, if, if they pay 10% towards pensions in one county, but they only pay 5% here, would that be something we would consider in determining the salaries? And I think Mary basically said that's something we get to decide, or?
I honestly don't know. Everything in the resolution in RCW is specifically salary.
Okay. Okay.
In our language in the county, salary is like, this is the formal salary range, whereas total compensation benefits, like all of that stuff.
And like she said, that's very labor intensive, so I think personally, we should just stick with the base monetary value of the actual payment.
Okay.
You know.
Just for clarification, since you did bring it up, do elected officials receive the same non-salary benefits as any non-repped position? So, healthcare benefits or vacation or retirement?
Take-home cars.
It's not,
Not a
there's,
take-home card.
Gas cards, you know.
it's not different than anybody that's not repped.
It is,
Yeah,
it is different.
which is why we were trying to stay in the base salary.
Mm.
So, it can be, yeah.
Mary, kind of a ballpark, would you say salary benefits, are you looking at 25%, 30, 35, depending on the position. When you say salary and benefits are gonna add on there, in my world,
Yeah, I would say that's pretty
we would say
close.
probably 30% for one group,
That's probably
40%.
close, depending on the group, yeah.
Okay.
And I wasn't considering it in relation to other Mason County employees. I was
Yeah, yeah,
considering
no, I
it
understand.
when looking at other counties and their
Mm-hmm.
total compensation package. How does that
I
fit?
understand. So the compensation philosophies that I'm familiar with is to treat base compensation, benefits, and I don't believe this probably exists in our case, but incentives or bonuses, those sorts of things are all sort of unique. But to your point, yes, sometimes compensation can be reflected. It's just in the private sector, if somebody's looking for a position elsewhere, they're gonna compare base salary and they're gonna move or make decisions based on base salary. The additional things come into play after that when they're like actually accepting, or sometimes after that.
So as a commission, we're looking at pretty much step one.
Base
of what-
salary.
What people would compare to, that, and that's it, just leaving it there.
That would be,
You mentioned vacations, and elected officials pretty well set their own schedules.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, they take vacations when they can, if they can. Retirement, from my experience, was through PERS. The labor unions developed their own retirement packages. But
Sometimes.
as far as elected officials, I think they're all PERS.
Mhm.
So that kind of thing, but the medical benefits, that's all negotiated. Is that right, Mike? Medical benefits are negotiated?
For union contracts, the amount that goes towards those, yes, but it's very different because we, like Mary said, we have 15 different unions. So depending on which union you're asking me about, I'd have a different answer for you. But there is a base amount that the commissioners basically negotiate with most unions to be paid towards healthcare benefits. The amounts for the PERS retirement, and even the amounts for left retirement for the law enforcement officers, those rates are actually set at the state level. So there is a portion that's contributed by the county, a portion that's contributed by the employee out of their salary.
good questions, and great information here, Mary, that I think is a week's worth of digestion for
I think the
for us,
break was a
right?
good idea on your part.
Yeah.
Great idea on your part. Let's see, I wanted to see if I had anything
And
else.
the only thing that I would have to interject is, I'm not actually sure I have this packet.
Oh, did the email not come through?
Yeah, I mean, I got the Word document on the organizational structures, but I don't think I actually have the packet of all the in-depth, data on the salaries and the comparable, salaries of the other counties.
So maybe what I might be able to suggest, Braden, is that you will receive it, or it's en route.
Yeah.
And when you do, perhaps through Diane, if you have questions, I'm sure
Yeah,
Mary
that's fine.
could help answer those
And that,
for you.
yeah, that's what I
offline,
just
if
kind
that's
of
all
held
right.
off interjecting, because I'm
Yeah.
like, I'll be able to review all this later,
Totally.
and then I can bring up the questions later
just-
throughout the week or the next time I'm in person.
Totally.
I just tried again. Will you let me know if you get it in the next couple minutes? I just tried it one more time.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to make sure you got what you need.
Are there other
Yeah,
questions?
sounds good. And then, we can carry on. I mean, this is all good information. Listen, you guys are asking all the same questions I would, so.
We appreciate you. It's tough being remote.
It is.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's not fun too, $6,200 estimate on new engines.
Right.
Ooh.
So Mary, is there more information?
The only thing I wanted to just draw your attention to was the RCW at the end that has the highlighted section. Those are the minimums per state law that can be awarded to those elected. So
You're talking about right here.
down back to the I can't remember which elected said
It's
if
like
you wanted to
this.
pay us $1, it's not quite true. So I want to make sure you were aware of that.
No, we were being facetious.
Okay,
I
good. All
believe.
right, I just want to make sure.
I was getting a hard line for that dollar.
Yeah. Are there any
And I got the
questions?
packet, so we're good.
Oh, good, perfect, okay.
Oh, I have
Yeah.
one question about the comparables, if I could.
We have to pay them that much for sure.
Skagit seems like a much bigger county than us, population-wise.
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So is it, I mean, how is it considered comparable then?
That's part of why we're in flux right now. Those are kind of the conversations we're having. Skagit
Okay.
is much bigger, as is Cowlitz. There are some other counties that the commission has been considering, that are in other parts of the state. And so those are conversations that they're still having, but these are 7 that have been set for a really, really long time, and no one
Okay.
really knows
Why?
why or where they
Okay.
came from. So that's why when we came in and we're like, hey, let's revisit this a little bit and the data, and that's when, it's, to your point, yes, Skagit is much bigger and has more resources than we do.
So perhaps if I could summarize, I think what we've asked for additionally is which of the counties have administrators. It'd also be interesting and maybe noted, but I didn't see it on a quick site, when we added our administrator here and whether or not job descriptions for our commissioners changed when that occurred, what their responsibilities were prior to after. So that's kind of one group. Org chart, I think
Yep,
said
I
might
think
be able
org
to get,
charts.
and then as far as these 7 counties, understanding that this is what the Board of County Commissioners has established, to your question, if we could have maybe some of the brief demographics, like whatever's made these comparables, and I think it's up here, like the population, the total county budget, number of FTEs in a chart, if we as a commission wanted to or chose to, and I'll just pick on Skagit because they're not here to talk for themselves, we brought them up. We could say
Blame it on me.
in our points of reference, Skagit's not one of the comparables. We could remove them from the details if we dive into this and see it'd be better because they're larger budget-wise or largest county-wise.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
But just a quick question on these counties, are there other counties we're considering possibly, we're picking on Skagit, but maybe removing them, are there counties that we should be looking at that we should
To add.
to this list as well, and how do we?
I can bring to you the study that was done of new recommendations for comparables. The 10 counties that were recommended to be swapped out were Skagit and Cowlitz, and to insert Kittitas and Walla Walla. They were more similar to
That
us.
makes more sense.
And the Federal Bureau of Economics has a formula that they use called regional price parity, which helps kind of level out that cost of living, because that's one of the arguments we hear is, well, it's so much cheaper to live on the east side, and so how do we adjust for that? And there's a mathematical equation for how we would incorporate that into our compensation math that we're doing.
And the charts in the back and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
So
So-
if you'd like, I can bring you all of that as well.
Do we have a timeframe on when these counties could possibly be switched out to use for our salary determination? If that's gonna be available to be able to be used as data to make a decision on before May 1st?
You can use it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
I
that's
have
our
it.
call.
Yeah,
That's our call.
I think at this point, judging by the size of Skagit and Clallam, that it'd be a good idea to start with those other 2 counties
I agree.
as a swap right now.
And I also, I personally feel that if Mary can get that, like, in the next couple days, there's no reason why we have to wait till next week to get it. You can send it to Diane,
Yep,
who can send it
absolutely.
to
I
us.
can
Does
get it
that
to you the next
does that make
24
sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Yep, I will send it to
I just
Diane.
wanted-
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just wanted to interject that maybe we've gone a long ways down this talk, considering we only have 4 weeks. Do we don't wanna deep dive into total compensation, or do we just wanna stay with base salary?
I think we already kind of.
Base
Yeah.
salary.
Yeah, we already
Right,
decided
yeah.
it's gonna be base salary.
But now we're talking about what counties we wanna.
Yes.
Oh, I have a
Um,
question.
I just have one question. I mean, all this is based off of, comparable counties in our region, but where are we at nationally? Because we're, how will we compare to other states with similar cost of living, like as far as compensation goes for those positions?
that's not something that's, generally studied, at least for Washington State, especially for negotiation reasons, because our RCW around interest arbitration is very clear about proximity and like west side of the country and those kinds of things, so that's not something that's generally studied.
Gotcha. This is because I understand that like for certain positions, like we may, on average, they may receive higher compensation in this state versus the rest of the nation on average. So I'm just wondering if we're basing our compensation off of a bubble that may be out of touch with where positions are nationally.
I think a lot of what they're looking at is just geographical location, and keeping it in a tighter area so that we don't get so much broad form data.
Yeah.
It becomes
that was just my only question was all, so.
It becomes problematic if you look at nationally. I mean, I would like to take my salary and compare it to California or New York.
Nice.
My board would prefer to look at Idaho and rural
Mississippi.
and rural Utah and Mississippi, so
Yeah.
it is a little problematic when we talk nationally.
Yeah.
It may be that the judicial salaries get a bit of that, and that's why it's not part of what we're looking at now as far as other elected officials, because the state determines their salaries.
Yeah.
I don't know if that national agenda falls in anywhere in that.
So I'm sort of hearing, again, thank you, Braden, for asking a question, but as far as expanding beyond the scope of the state of Washington, that's kind of our boundary, unless anybody.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, I'm thinking ahead, because somebody like Diane is gonna ask me what's on the agenda next time. One of the things I think we've sort of developed through consensus that probably should be a definition that we adopt is that salary in the resolution that was passed by the Board of County Commissioners means base salary. And so if, I'll suggest that we put that on our next agenda. That's one. Two, this question of whether or not we should swap out counties. I'm not ready to lean one way or another until I actually see the comparison information from that study, and so we could put that as a, do we have to do all this touching, what, 3-touch rule here? No?
What's the, what are you?
Like, for instance, can we, if we put that on our agenda and we collectively determine at the next meeting that we want to swap out counties, can we do it at that meeting, or do we have to bring it up and discuss it and wait for another one?
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, you're not set by that. That's usually a city rule in the RCW.
All right, thanks. I watch too much Mason Web TV. Thank you. Expanding my horizons. So we'll get that information, and then we can potentially make, at the next decision, decide whether or not we want to actually officially swap those out. If we do, then we want to talk about comparisons to the other counties and the information that Mary's going to provide with the org charts, and the administrator role and how that changed or didn't change functions of the commissioners, the county commissioners, would be helpful.
Because population data, it can be part of that data that's coming from the counties as well, population and tax revenue.
I can pull the whole study that our consultant did.
And then that would precipitate updating all of the other numbers after in this packet, right?
I will do it at the same time. You'll have all new stuff.
You're fantastic.
Thank you.
Is this a website where anybody can get on and get information?
Okay.
So Jim, I want to be clear on the agenda. So on the base salary, you want an item, so this commission,
This commission's definition of salary, which is the wording in the resolution, refers to base salary. I think that's
in a resolution that you intend to adopt when you set the salaries.
Yeah, because there was confusion here about what salary meant, whether it was total compensation or just base.
Should we mention in that statement that, like you said, we're talking about base salary, should we mention that we're not considering, specifically that we're not considering, and that not only that we're not considering the compensation around it, but that's determined by a different body.
I would probably just not speak to it
Yeah.
myself.
I would just leave it at like base monetary salary.
And I'm fine if base salary isn't the right terminology in the county world. I mean, if HR or legal has a different word for defining that.
No, base salary's fine.
Open to that, so.
Well, I wasn't suggesting we set other compensation, I was just.
No, it was
saying,
a really
do we
good
use that
question. No,
compare?
it was a really good question, but I think it did help us identify that I don't see in the Board of County Commissioners resolution that salary is defined. So we're defining what salary means, and that way it's clear. Going forward, we could change it in the future if we wanted to consider more, because I think it's a really valid observation. Is there more HR data or information that you feel Mary could provide to us that would be helpful as we compare the current elected official salaries? Any other tangential, or is there anybody that you feel would provide helpful insights or perspectives to us as we evaluate this that you would want Mark to reach out to bring into the conversation?
Seems like we've got an awful lot already.
Yeah.
We have a lot to look at.
There's one thing I'm a little unclear on, is, are these two formulas, do they apply to what we determine with these,
We get to decide that.
or is that null and void now, at this point?
I think we get to decide.
Okay.
Are you talking about the sheriff specifically, or any of
Not
them?
that specifically, but that's one of them, and also this one, the formula where it says, you know, at 95% of the commissioner's salary and 22%
Oh.
above the elected official salary, and, you know, does all that apply to what we determine, or,
So the 95% and the 22%, those have gone away.
okay,
Those ones have been replaced by another resolution. I just included that to kind of show the history of
Okay.
kind of how it's been going the last 10
Gotcha.
years or so. Currently, it's the 1% they get each year, and then the sheriff, under-sheriff ties are the ones that are kind of currently in place right now. That
Okay.
maybe need to be
and
done,
that
or
moving
then-
forward is gonna stay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
So the 1% is something that would be under our purview if we wanted to change that.
Okay,
Or we can determine that this commission is now evaluating the salaries every year, and we're gonna go by that annual evaluation to determine what the current appropriate
Okay.
is, which may be more or less
Right.
than 1%. If I'm understanding correctly.
And also the sheriff's salary is, we
Is-
get to change that if we so decide.
whether that stays tied to the undersheriff
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah, and that might be one piece, I don't know if there was anywhere, I don't know where to find it, like if there was commentary during that decision about why 95% of the, or 5%
I'm
above the
sure there are
undersheriff?
minutes on
or-
file with the clerk, but were they recording meetings at that time, Diane?
Yes.
You were? Where are those?
Where are those?
Where are those, Deidre?
On Mason Web TV.
YouTube channel.
Oh, boy. I might have
Those,
to dig.
the 95% though was like over 10 years ago, wasn't it?
No, we're talking about the
The sheriff
The
sheriff
5% above the
Being 5%.
Oh,
undersheriff.
that one,
It looks like that
2016.
was,
being tied to the undersheriff salary. That looks more recent.
it looks like 2020.
Mary, I'm wondering if you, can you provide us the undersheriff's salary schedule or the step? next
Long
time?
recs, yep. Mhm.
Yeah. That'd probably-
Yeah, so-
that'd be
so-
helpful.
Resolution 3919 in January of 2020 was when the sheriff
Yeah.
was set at 5% above the
So you want us to
undersheriff.
try and find the video link for that, or meeting minutes or something?
Something that might just say, this is kind of what we were thinking, this is how we picked that position versus, a percentage of the coroner's position, or the auditor's position, or any other position in the sheriff's
Some type of
department.
baseline reasoning.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was something to do with, they didn't want the undersheriff being paid more than the sheriff, probably.
Right, well, I said undersheriff 2.5, and everybody's at
Well,
1.
she was talking about that,
Oh.
it's set via the commissioner's resolution, negotiated, or is that,
It's the tenure step as well.
oh, it's a 10-year step?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we know what step he's on, or
I
she?
think he's tapped on at 10, I have to go look. But then they also get the across the board, so if he gets a 2% raise for cost of living, then the sheriff automatically gets,
Yeah.
Right.
because it's all tied together.
What if there was a new undersheriff? any experience in starting on step one? What does that do to the sheriffs?
As far as I know, they've been bumping down to 5% above.
Under the
Question
current
for-
resolution.
Under the current resolution.
Yeah.
That'd be a good question for the Board of County Commissioners, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think
That's
starting
why
with
it
the
muddies the waters
base,
a
the
little.
baseline of
Yeah, that's weird.
of what went into that thought process would be helpful, because did they consider that or not? 'Cause that-
Yeah.
Or is there
I will,
like a safety net there, you know, that they put into the resolution where if there's
You
any
can't go
under
backwards.
sheriff? Well, you can go backwards, but only so far, you know, or something like that. Is there some type of safety net or,
We'll
you
take a
know,
look.
stopgap measure?
The resolution, I think, is attached here, so we'll take a look at it and see.
Like,
It is,
like-
but there was probably something in the packet, but they briefed it. But I'll go see what I can find to
in,
try to paint a picture for you.
when I worked in state government, if something happened that would cause a reversal, the person was frozen at that salary until either cost of living or some other thing bumped them up to where they currently were. They were just frozen.
But to answer your question, Lee, in the resolution that was passed,
I have no idea what that would be.
there is no fallback, there's no safety
So
net.
we need to
Okay.
maybe we should think on that when we're
Yeah.
determining it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure that, that directly, I understand wanting to be paid more than an undersheriff, that makes a lot of sense. But if if you bring in somebody new, then you're gonna, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, they're gonna lose, you know, $40,000 a year in income.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll get some
But
information
it
about the
also makes it
baseline
so
of
you
that
don't-
decision, yeah.
It also makes it so you wouldn't let go, you wouldn't wanna let go of your undersheriff.
Yeah.
Right? To me, that seems like there'd be a conflict of interest maybe
There's a
there.
couple different
Yeah, it would almost
conflicts
be able
there.
to, the undersheriff would almost be able to hold the sheriff hostage at that point, using his wage as a, you know, pivot point.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
also
we
the
should
sheriff
maybe,
could, try to keep that salary elevated, knowing that his,
Yeah.
his or hers
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
tied to that.
Yeah, so I think there should be some sort of stopgap, like you said, at the state level.
Yeah, let's start with the baseline information and then
yeah.
we'll figure that out. Mary Jo?
Just looking at the big overall picture, whatever we decide goes into effect May 1st.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to figure out what the impact's gonna be on the already established budget for this year. So if we could see the budget,
Yeah.
the part that affects salaries or whatever the
Or have the
umbrella is right now.
subject matter expert from
Pardon me?
the budget, or have the subject matter expert from the
The budget
budgeting
director or
to come
whoever
and
Yeah.
talk
that
with
is.
us.
Talk with,
That'd be a good
Mark,
idea.
can that be arranged to have?
Can you send it the email now?
The treasurer or whoever.
There's a budget director.
Whoever could share with us the perspective of the budget of the expenses of the elected officials' salaries on the budget, what impact, what percentage of the budget is that?
Yeah. And.
So what is the percentage of the budget
Or-
by elected?
Well, the question was,
How is this
overall,
gonna-
how does this impact the budget? And I'm not sure if the
One-
impact on the budget is within our scope or not.
One would
but
assume
it's a
that the
legitimate
budget allows
question.
what's current, so unless we jump up and double their salaries or something, I don't think we're gonna stress the budget too much.
Not necessarily.
No, but it'd be good to know what percentage of the budget these salaries are though, so that at least, it'd be, I don't know, it's just good information, I think. I wrote that down earlier, honestly.
I agree totally.
Seems
with
like
you.
we might be getting outside our bailiwick a little
I think
bit.
it comes down to if the salary commission establishes a higher salary and there's not capacity, the commissioners would have to adjust the budgets. Because we do a mid-year adjustment.
So our decision, the ramifications of our decision
'Cause-
are gonna be,
Can affect county budget.
Yes.
they can, they will affect
And
the
the
county
commissioners
budget,
know
and
that.
the outcome of that would be not our challenge.
Right, the
Not our
commissioners know,
problem.
right.
In so many words.
Mark, what do you keep for reserve, 3%, 8%, 6%? Hopefully 1%?
He's like, oh boy.
No, actually, right now, our reserve is very, very healthy,
Okay,
Oh, good.
okay,
40-50%.
okay. Yeah,
You keep-
perfect, for me, in a perfect world, is 8%.
So,
I think that the accounting standards recommend that you stick around 12, but Mason County, the commissioners have actually done a very good job over the last few years, since 2018 forward, and they've established a very healthy fund balance.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
So we can bring that into our scope for budget, but Mary Jo, for now, the percentage of the elected official salaries is part of the overall compensation budget and percentage of the overall county budget, would that be helpful? So as a start, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay, I can get that information.
Okay. I'm just looking at time, and I think we have to either like wrap up in 3 minutes or extend the meeting in 3 minutes, for not long, because I think we're pretty good with information right now.
Yeah.
If that's all right with everybody, and there's an agenda here.
We have
Item
public.
7, we already have, I think, discussed that what we are striving to do is to pursue that goal of May 1, 2024, for raising questions, answers, and discussion for our establishment of salary, the new salary for the elected officials, is that?
I would say we
accurate?
just completed that.
Okay. Yep, so, number 8 is public comment, and I don't believe that we have any unless anybody's dialed in or shown up that I don't see yet.
Got anybody on the radio?
Not hearing anybody on the phone lines?
Will continue to be part of our agenda. And Diane, people can also submit public comment in writing, is that
They could, yes.
true? So do we want to have people show up in person, or is written comment okay too with everybody, which I think we suggested?
Written's fine.
Yeah,
Person
written
or
would be,
Zoom, whatever.
So,
Whatever they wanna do.
yeah.
Both.
both? Yep, good, just one page.
I'm not entirely sure about in person, due to our meeting space. You know, a couple people I could see, you know, that'd be okay, but we just don't have a whole lot of space like an auditorium.
The Open Public Meetings Act doesn't allow you to restrict.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, there you go.
So here we are. But this is how we're learning, right?
Yeah,
How we're
exactly,
doing.
don't know until you think of
So,
something.
we'll cross that bridge if we
If
need
you get
to.
a crowd, we'll worry about it then.
Yeah.
Now, our Zoom
I don't think
stuff
that's
is
gonna happen.
live, the TV stuff, is that made to some other time, or?
It's live streamed right now, and then he also, the recordings will be available on the Mason Web TV website.
Forever.
So,
The
anything?
agenda.
The agenda, so.
We kind of already did that.
Kind of what I was outlining before, so I've got a couple of potential decisions, and I think we'll get the updated information from Mary and review that. A question, thank you, a question I guess I have for everybody is, and we don't necessarily need to decide right now, but maybe something to think about as we go through this. Would we like to review position by position or hopscotch around between positions? Personally, I'm a little bit more list-oriented, so that we aren't intertwining discussions about the clerk with discussions about the sheriff, with discussions about the
One at a
commissioners.
time.
So
Yeah.
we'll just go through those one at a time and kind of review.
I agree.
So I think on our next agenda, we'll have a time to review the information collectively and then go through the officials. And then when we get to a place where we think we're at, my off the cuff thought at the moment, off the spur of the thought, is that we would sort of suspend that, not make a decision right then and there, and then have a meeting where we would be making the final decisions about all of the salaries. That would give us time to, did we overlook something? It would give time for people to comment if they felt the need to comment, and for us to take that into consideration, or for us to go out and get additional information from Mary or somebody else, if we felt that was needed. So striving to like go position by position, identify where we think that position's salary may be, and then finalize it all, sort of bless it, if you will.
Digestive process.
Digest process and bless, so we're not viewed as making knee-jerk decisions, and we can think about different ramifications. Appreciate everybody's time, appreciate your trust in the guy that you don't know, trying to facilitate what we don't know.
That's what matters, you look good.
Appreciate everybody's being here, and we will see you
Did
next
you have anything?
Monday.
at 5:30. Thank you, everybody, we're adjourned.
I think that's great.
Thank you, Mary.